Okay, so good morning, everyone. We'll start with your chapter 2, that is your data models. So before we start, just first let us know what do you mean by data models. So whenever I talk about data models, it actually defines the logical structure of your database, how your structure of your database is going to get modeled. So when we talk about data models, these are nothing but fundamental entities that actually helps you to introduce abstraction in databases. Abstraction means what information you want to show, what information you want to hide. That is called as abstraction in DBMS. So your database model basically tells you how your data is connected to each other, how they are processed, and how they are stored into your database systems. So in short, we can say that data model is an abstract model that organizes your elements of data, and it shows what relationship they have with each other and the properties they hold. So that is your data model. Data model actually helps you to have an interaction between the applications, the programmers, and the end users who are using that model as a reference. So in short, we can just conclude in one word that data models are a communication tools. Let's move to the next. When we talk about data models, there are many data models. The common ones are your hierarchical model, network model, relational model, entity relationship model, and object oriented model. So these are your data models, and each of them we are going to look into in detail. So let us start with the very first one. First is your hierarchical model. So when I talk about hierarchical model, it is a data model in which your data is organized into tree-like structure. You can see there is a tree-like structure there. There is a root node, there is a child node, okay, there is a parent node. So that is your hierarchical model. So your hierarchical model is a tree-like structure. The data which is stored is in a form of records and which are connected to one another with the help of links. You can see the links here. These are the links. These are the links. These are the links. Okay. The lines which is going across is the links there. Next, when I talk about record, it is nothing but a collection of fields where each field contains only one value, and the entity type of your record defines which field the record contains, and the record in the hierarchical database corresponds to your rows. That is nothing but your tuples. So whenever I talk about relational data model, entity type corresponds to your table or your relations. So whenever I talk about hierarchical model, in short, we can say that there will be each child record that will have only one parent. See, you can see here, there is child record, which has only one parent here. Similarly, you can see this is the child record, which has one parent here. Similarly, here also you have two child records and which have one parent here. So that is your, each child will have only one parent record where each parent can have multiple child. So in this diagram, you can say each parent have two child records. So that is your hierarchical database model. Well, all your information is stored in the form of tree-like structure. There will be root node, there will be child node, parent node, and then you will have the child node. That is the architecture of your database model, hierarchical. Next, we are going to network model. So whenever I talk about network model, it is considered as one of the most easiest model where you represent your information, or you can say your data, in a form of objects along with their relationship. So you can see in network model, the data is represented as a graph where every object has nodes and the relationships are represented with the help of the arcs. You can see the arcs which are going on here, this arc, this arc, this arc. So we have arcs there. In hierarchical database model, you used to have representation as a tree of records, with each record having just one parent record and many children. Whereas if I talk about network data model, it allows each record to have multiple parent and child record. That is why the structure is like your graph structure, because it allows multiple parent child record. Like for example, here we have store, which is a parent for customer, manager, and salesman. Similarly, we have customer, which is a parent for order. Manager is also a parent for order, and salesman is also the parent for order. So you have multiple parent-child relationship. That is why the structure is so flexible, and it really helps you to make a graphical structure. Okay, let's move to the next. Next is your relational model. So when I talk about relational model, here the data is represented in the form of rows and columns, where rows are also called as records or tuples, and columns are there. So in relational model, the data comes from two or more relations. So that is why it is called as relational model, and it was come up from Dr. E.F. Code in 1970. He has come up with code 12 rules, and according to that rules, the data is stored into your relational data model. So in this example, we have two tables, that is student table and subject table. Student table have data like student ID, student name and student age, wherein your subject table have subject ID, subject name and teacher name. So when you are combining the subject student ID of student table, subject ID of subject table, and you're coming up with the third table, that is your marks table, which will have both the IDs along with the marks scored by each of the student. So that is your relational data model, where relations are made from two or more table, and that helps you to get the data from the tables. Next we had seen was entity relationship data model. So whenever I talk about entity relationship data model, it actually tells us the relationship between our entities, wherein you can say entity is nothing but a group of similar entities that hold some attributes. So here we have entity 1, which will have its own attributes. There is a relationship which is denoted by a diamond notation. Then we have entity 2, and this will have an attributes. So entity relationship model, nothing but it tells how your one entity is having a relationship with another entity. So here we have taken an example. We have entity 1, that is student, that has attributes student ID, student name, student address. We had a relationship that is study in. Another entity which have is college, which has attribute college ID and college name. So the student studies in college. So that is a simple ER diagram which connects your student entity and college entity together with the relationship it holds, that is study in. Next is your ER model representation. So when you talk about representation of ER model, what are the different notations which are used? Okay. So whenever you want to represent any entity, you're going to use a rectangle. Whenever you want to represent attribute, you will represent it with oval. When you want to represent relationship, you will represent it with a diamond structure. You want to represent or you want to show any link, then you will use a dash line, a straight dash line. It's not has to be dotted one. Whenever you want to represent multi-valued attributes, attributes which will have multiple value, then you will go for a double oval. When you want to represent derived attributes, then you will go for a dotted oval. Whenever you want to represent total participation of entity, you will go for double lines. When you want to represent weak entity, you will go for the double rectangular boxes. Similarly, weak relationship, you will represent with double diamonds. You want to represent composite attributes, so there will be one attribute and the composite attributes will represented with the bars connected to it, which tells how it is composition of the one single attribute. And whenever you want to represent key attribute, then you are going to underline it. So that is your ER model representation. You have to kindly note that whenever you want to represent or when you want to draw ER model, you have to use this notations only for representation. Let's move to the next. Next, when we move to ER model, it is divided into 3. Okay. First is your entity. Second is your attribute. And third is your relationship. So whenever I talk about entity, it refers to weak entity and refers to strong entity. Whenever I talk about attributes, it is divided into 4 parts: key attribute, composite attribute, multi-valued attribute, and derived attribute. Whenever I talk about relationship, which is also called as cardinalities, it is called as one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, many-to-one relationship, and many to many relationship. So we'll go in each of them in detail. Let's start. So the very first is your entity. So whenever I talk about entity, what do you mean by entity here? So entity is nothing but an object, you can say, or a component of data. And an entity represented as a rectangular. In your ER diagram, you can see my entities are represented in rectangular. So in this example, I have two entities. One is student entity and another is college entity. So these entities are connected together with a relationship that is denoted as diamond sign, and that has relationship study. So here your relationship is what? Student study in college. However, your student will have your student attributes like student ID, student name, and student address. Similarly, your college can also have its college attributes, that is your college ID and college name. So we can say that that relationship between student and college is many to one, as college can have many students. However, a student cannot study in multiple college at the same time. So that is why there is a many to one relationship. We will go in much in detail for this in the later topics which we are coming. Okay. Next is your weak entity. So whenever I talk about weak entity, it can be defined as entity that cannot be uniquely identified by its own attributes, and it is always dependent on the relationship with another entity. That is called as weak entity. So when I talk about weak entity, it is represented as the double rectangle which you can see on the screen here. Your bank account is your weak entity here. In contrast to this, when I talk about strong entity, those are those entity who does not depend on the existence of any other entity, and they are denoted by a single rectangle. You can see here the bank entity is a single rectangular. So when I talk about strong entity, mostly your strong entity will be your primary key set of attributes that are considered to be strong, and all the tables or all your, you can say, relationships are dependent on that primary key attributes, because if you don't have a primary key attributes, you cannot uniquely identify your records. However, your bank account is weak entity because if there is no bank, there will be no bank account. Okay, so bank account is dependent on bank as an entity. If there is bank, then there is a bank account. If there is no bank, then there is no bank account. However, when I talk about primary key of bank, you must be knowing that we have IFSC code, that every bank has it. So this IFSC code uniquely identifies every bank, and that becomes a strong entity, and your bank account becomes the weak entity. Okay, let's move to the next. Next was your attributes. So whenever we talk about attributes, attributes are nothing but that describes the property of an entity. Like every entity which comes will have set of attributes. Attribute describes about the property of an entity. So whenever you are representing attributes in ER diagram, it is represented using ovals. You can see all the attributes here are in the form of ovals. So we are starting with the very first attribute, that is your key attribute. So when I talk about key attribute, it is just an attribute that can uniquely identify any entity from an entity set. For example, we have your student entity which has field roll number, name, age, and address. Okay, so a student roll number can uniquely identify a student from a set of students, isn't it? That is why it is underlined. So it is your primary key attribute which will uniquely identify. However, even if the two students have the same name, but they will have different roll numbers. So roll number becomes an uniquely identified that identifies the student from a set of students. So that is your key attribute. Primary keys comes as your key attribute, and you have to underline the key attributes. Next is composite attributes. So when I talk about composite attributes, there are basically an attribute that is combination of other attributes. That is your composite attributes. Like composing of three attributes, it is representing one single attribute, that is called as composite attribute. So here in an example, you can see that you have an address and it is composed of pin code, state, and country. So this three composition together make one attribute, that is your address. Similarly, you can even go for name, where your first name, middle name, last name together can compose and become a one single name. That is your name attribute. Okay. So that was your composite attributes. Let's move to the next. Next is your multi-valued attribute. So whenever I talk about multi-valued attribute, an attribute that hold multiple values, that is called as multi-valued attribute, and it is represented as double ovals in ER diagram. So here in example, you can see that you have a student entity and it has attributes student phone number, student name, age, date of birth, and student ID. So student phone number is multi-valued attribute here. The reason is a student can have multiple values, they can have multiple phone numbers, so that is why it is called as multi-valued attribute. Next is derive attribute. So whenever I talk about derive attribute, it is one whose value is derived from another attribute. It is dependent on other attribute for its calculation. That is called as derive. Derive means you are going to derive or you're going to calculate something. So that is called as derive attribute. So whenever you want to represent derive attribute, you're going to represent it with the dash oval. So here you can see that age is derived attribute, okay, as it changes over the time, and it is derived from whom? Date of birth. So if you have a date of birth, then only you can calculate age. If you don't have date of birth, you cannot calculate the age. So that is your derived attribute. Similarly, we have student ID that we have already seen in the key attribute. Any primary key attribute which is there, you need to underline it. So this is your multi-valued attribute, derived attribute, and your primary key attribute. So that was all about your attributes. Let's move to the next. Next we are coming to is your relationship, which is also called as cardinalities. So whenever I talk about relationship, it actually tells how one entity is participating into another entity and it is making a relationship. Because if it doesn't have relationship, how they are going to communicate with each other, how they're going to interact with each other, how the mapping will take place between your entities. Okay, so that is why it is very much important that there has to be relationship between your entities. So whenever we talk about relationship, it is represented as a diamond shape in your ER diagram. You can see here there is a diamond shape in your ER diagram. At times when I talk about relationship, they are also called as cardinalities. So relationship and cardinalities are same because they also represent association or relationship between the two entities. So when we talk about relationship types, the very first type is one-to-one relationship. So when I talk about one-to-one relationship, it is termed as when a single instance of an entity is associated with a single instance of another entity, then it is called as one-to-one. For example, a person has only one passport and a passport is given to one person. The example which I has given there, you can see over your screen. So you have an entity one, that is person, your entity two is your passport, and has is the relationship. Second, one to many. So when I talk about one to many, it is referred as when a single instance of an entity is associated with more than one instance of another entity, then it is called as one to many. So here in this example, we have customer as one entity, we have order as second entity, and the relationship between these two is placed. So we can say that a customer can place many orders, but a order cannot be placed by many customers. So that is your one to many relationship. Next we'll move many to one relationship. So when we talk about many to one relationship, it refers to when more than one instance of an entity is associated with a single instance of another entity, then it is called as many to one. So here we have two entities here. One is your student entity, second is your college entity, and the relationship between these two is study. So how we can term it as many students can study in a single college, but a student cannot study in many colleges at the same time. So that is your many to one relationship. Last is your many to many relationship. So when I talk about many to many relationship, it is referred as when more than one instance of an entity is associated with more than one instance of another entity, then it is called as many to many. For example, here we have two entities here. One is your student entity and second is your project entity. And the relationship between these two is assigned. So when I take it together, we can tell it as that each college must have a student can be assigned to many projects and a project can be assigned to many students. So that is your relationship here. Many to many. So these are your four relationship. One to one relationship, one to many relationship, many to one relationship and many to many relationship. Let's move to the next. Next we have is total participation of an entity set. So when I talk about total participation of entity set, it refers to how your each entity in entity set will have at least one relationship in a relationship set. For example, in the diagram you can see we have a student relationship, we have a study in relationship, and we have a college. Okay, so college and student are two entities, but the relationship between them is study in. However, your college student have attributes like student ID, student name and student address. If I talk about college attributes, it has college ID and college name. So here we can say that each college must have at least one associated student. So that is why it is total relationship when it is going from student to college, because at least there will be one student studying in the college. Next is your partial participation relationship. So whenever I talk about partial participation, the entity participation will be partial. It will not be complete. That is your partial participation. Like example, we can say like you have a doctor and you have a patient and the relationship between them is diagnosis. So when I talk about doctor, if it is visiting 2 hours in different clinics, so he is giving a partial participation. He is not giving complete participation. He is not at one place for a long time. He is keep moving to different clinics for maybe hours or 2 hours depending on the doctor timings, and so the participation is partial here. So when I talk about partial participation, here each entity in the entity set may or may not participate in the relationship. Okay, their participation will be optional. At times they will participate or at times they won't participate. So whenever you are representing partial participation, then you have to represent with the help of a single line. So you can see here there is doctor to diagnosis, and from diagnosis to patient there is a single line. So that is your participation, that is your partial participation. Let's move to the next. Next topic is your ERD issues. So when we talk about ERD issues, it is of four types. First is use of entity sets versus your attributes. Second is use of entity sets versus your relationship sets. Third is your binary versus n number of relationship sets. And the fourth is placement of relationship sets, relationship attributes. So the next is your object-oriented data models. So whenever I talk about object-oriented data models, these are the models which will have object-oriented concepts into it. Like in object-oriented programming, you must have studied what is polymorphism, what is inheritance, what is encapsulation. So this is your object-oriented concept which comes into your object-oriented data model. So here when I talk about data model, it will actually refers to the model which will have objects. So the interaction here will takes place in terms of object. Information will be represented in the form of objects. So that is why it is called as object-oriented data model. Along with there will be object oriented concept like your polymorphism, inheritance, encapsulation. Okay, when polymorphism refers to many forms, inheritance refers to your parent child relationship, inheriting your parent child relationship, encapsulation refers hiding your details. So the all object oriented programming concept, when it is mapped or you can say joined with relational databases, that is integrity, concurrency, query processing, that together makes your object oriented data model. So here we are going to store the information or represent the information in the form of objects only. That is why it is called as object-oriented data model. Let's move to the next. Next, we'll take a comparative study of all your models, which we have studied so far. So we have studied entity model, relational model, hierarchical model, network model, and object-oriented model. So when I talk about entity model, here your representation is in a graphical form where you will represent in a form of your entity 1, entity 2 along with the relationship. So there is a graphical representation here. Second, it is effective communication tool because it is very easy to communicate your ER model, because just by seeing it, you can tell that how your one entity is participating with another entity. So it is very effective communication tool. Third, it can be integrated with relational model. All the model which we are studying here can be easily integrated with relational model because we are going to have a set of attributes also. The data is stored in the form of rows and columns. So integration with relational model is easy. Next, we are moving to relational model. So the advantages of your relational model are very first, structural independence. Second is your ad hoc query. The structure of the query is temporary. Third, it is very flexible to represent because you're going to represent the data in the form of rows and columns only. Next comes your hierarchical model. So the advantage of hierarchical model here is it promotes data sharing through parent-child relationship. Second, parent-child relationship enforces data integrity. So it always makes sure your data is correct, your data is complete because there is a parent-child relationship. If you delete your parent, the child will be also automatically deleted. Next, it helps you to have effective one-to-one relationship. So there is always one-to-one relationship. One parent is communicating with multiple child, but at a time they will have one-to-one relationship between them. Next, network model. It handles one-to-one also. It handles many-to-many relationship also because many parent can have many child and many childs can have many parents. So it can handle one-to-one also and it can handle many-to-many also. Next, it also ensures data integrity because whatever data you are entering, it makes sure that the data is correct, the data is complete. Okay. Third, it conformance to standard. Conformance to standard means what? There can be multiple parental relationship. It always makes sure that it follows the standard and it doesn't violate the rules. Last is your object oriented model. So when I talk about object oriented model, the first advantage here is capable of handling different data types. Since we are storing data in a form of objects, so it comes with capability of handling different data types. It is very easy to access the data because your data is stored in the form of objects and objects can be easily accessed. Third, it uses object oriented concepts. So it has concept like polymorphism, inheritance, encapsulation. So all is there. So it, when I talk about object oriented concept, it always comes with reusability and productivity. So that is was your advantages. Now let us see the disadvantages of each of them. When I talk about disadvantage, let us start with first entity model. So here the first is loss of information when attributes are removed. Here you are joining one entity to another. So whenever your attributes are removed, the entity will not have anything to represent. So there will be a loss of information here. Second, limited constraint representation. Here you cannot describe more constraint, like the constraints which you have studied, primary key, foreign key. So here you can just represent one constraint only, like primary key and few constraints. There is not much options here. Third, limited scope to represent relationships. So your relationships can be represented only in 4 forms. It is one-to-one, it is one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. So there is a limited scope of representing the relationship. Next, disadvantage of relational model. First, hardware overheads. There is a lot of overhead with respect to hardware processing. Second, it causes information problem. Why it causes information problem? Because there is information stored in your tables and columns, and there are a lot of information also stored at times, and there is a lot of referencing which takes place. So that is why there is information problem. Third, ease of design may lead to bad design also, because this actually happens. Then wherever you are at times going for a simple design, it at times also refers to your bad design also. So that also takes place at times. Next is disadvantage of hierarchical model. Programming complexity. Now here it is a programming complexity because you have to each time see your parent-child relationship. Then only you can go for the programming structure. So the complexity here arises. Next, changes made in the database requires to make an application the programs that access it. So whenever you try to make the changes in the database, at times there are applications which actually try to protect them, or you can say they try to overcome it. Next is network model. So when I talk about network model, the disadvantage is system complexity. Why it is system complexity? Because it has to handle many relationship. There are multiple parent relationship, there are multiple child relationship. So there is so much to handle. So because of that, there is a complexity. Next, operational anomalies. Operational anomalies mean refers to there are many references made at a single point of time. So at times it becomes very difficult to understand that which reference is made against which. Third, lack of structural independence. There is no fixed structure when I talk about network model, as there is multiple parent-child relationship. So there is no fixed structure that the data will store in that form only. Depending on your parent-child relationship, the structure will keep on changing. Next, object-oriented disadvantage. First is difficult to maintain. Why it is difficult to maintain? Because there will be multiple data types when I talk about with respect to object-oriented programming. So it becomes very difficult to maintain in that case. Not suitable for all application, object-oriented programming. So it will not be suitable for all application. It will be suitable for only those application which has object-oriented concepts into it, like polymorphism, encapsulation, inheritance. Those are having those functionalities or applications have those attributes into it, then only it can work well. Third, complexity arises in some cases. Now, complexity arises in terms of what? You have many objects, have many data types. So to convert the data type is also a complexity, and this occurs when you are doing the same. Let's move to the next. Data organization. So when I talk about data organization, in ER model, it is in the form of objects. In relational model, it is in the form of tables. In hierarchical model, it is in the form of files and records. In network model, again, it is in the files and records. And in object-oriented model, it is in the terms of objects. Next characteristic is relationship structure. So relationship structure in ER model is specified application here refers to, depending on your application, you will design your entity model. So as per your application, you will do the designing. There can be one-to-one relationship also, there can be one-to-many also, there can be many-to-one. So that depending on the application designing, the structure will keep on changing. When I talk about a relational model, the data will be stored in the form of rows and columns only, which is already described by Dr. E.F. Code in his Cord 12 rule. When I talk about hierarchical model, so your representation is in a form of tree. You can see there is a root node, there is a parent structure, and there is a child structure. When I talk about network model, so here the representation is in a form of records, where it is in the form of graphs. You can see a graphic-like structure. And when we talk about object-oriented model, so your representation is a form of objects. The objects will be correlated with each other. They will have some relationship between them. Next characteristic is identity. So when I talk about identity, what type of identity they hold? So when I talk about ER model, the identity is in a form of value based. The information which you will receive will in a form of value. That is nothing but your attribute values. Similarly, in relational also, we have value based because we have attribute values into this also. When I talk about identity in hierarchical model, it is in a form of records based. You can see there is a record form of structure, parent and child record. Similarly, in network also, there is multiple child and multiple parent. That is why it is record based here again. Similarly, in objects also, we are storing in the form of objects. The objects are grouped together. So that is a record based also here. So your first two is value based and the last three is your record based. Next is your access language. So access language is how you're going to access the model. So here we have non-procedural. In your ER model, there is no fixed procedure that whenever you are accessing, you have to have the fixed structure only. Similarly, in your relational also, it is non-procedural. There is no fixed structure. Only the requirement is that the data has to be in the form of rows and columns. Whenever I talk about hierarchical model, it has a fixed structure. Like you have to first enter in your parent, then only the data will be entered into your child. So there is procedure. Similarly, in your also network model, there is procedure. The first data has to be entered into your parent structures, and then it will be entered into your child structures. Next, in objects, again it is procedural because your object will have your attributes also. So first your object should be ready, and then the value should be entered into your attributes. So the first two is non-procedural and the last three is procedural. Next is your data independence. So when I talk about data independence, independence of data is there in all of them. There is no fixed, there is no dependency over the data. The data is independent in nature. Last, when I talk about structure independence, the structure independence for entity and your relational model is fixed. Okay. Whereas for your hierarchical network, there is no fixed structure, but for object there is a fixed structure, because whenever you are accessing the object, there is methods which are going to use, and that methods always remain the same. So the structure independence is present in the first two. Then in network and hierarchical it is not present, but in object again it is present. So that was your comparative study of your data models. Let's move to the next. Next we are talking about is basic building blocks. So whenever I talk about basic building blocks, these are nothing but whenever you are building your structure of your data model, what are the basic elements which you require? So the basic elements which we require here is first entities, second is attributes, third is relationship, and fourth is constraints. So we have already studied previously what do you mean by entity, what do you mean by attributes, and what do you mean by relationship or mapping cardinalities. We'll move to the fourth one, that is your constraints. So whenever I talk about constraints, constraints are nothing but the limitations which you enforce on your data, or you can say on the type of data, while you are inserting, while you are updating, or while you are deleting. So the main purpose of your constraint is to make or you maintain the data in your database, that is complete data, correct data, and data has to be in an integrated form while you are updating your data, you are deleting your data, or you are inserting your data. So we are going to start with the very first constraint, that is your not null constraint. So whenever I talk about not null constraint, this constraint makes sure that the column will not have null value. So whenever you don't provide any value for a particular column while inserting the record into a table, it takes null value by default. So when you specify null constraint, it will make sure that a particular column cannot have null value. So here in this example, we have taken that my roll number cannot be null. My student age cannot be null. So I have taken these two attributes which cannot be null. Because my roll number is a unique ID, so my all the columns are depending on the unique ID, so I don't want my roll number to be null. So here I have taken a student age also as not null, but mostly when we talk about not null constraint, we make sure that all the primary key attributes are not null. Let us move to the next constraint, unique constraint. So whenever I talk about unique constraint, it enforces that your column or your set of columns should have unique values. Like whenever you talk about a column has a unique value, it means that the column will have no duplicate value. It will have unique values only. So in this example, I have mentioned unique for the student name. I have constraint not null. Along with that, I have a constraint that is unique. So I want that all the values in my student name should have unique values only. So let's move to the next, that is your default constraint. So whenever I talk about default constraint, it provides me a default value to a column when there is no value provided while you are inserting a record into your tables. So like here I have taken an example, exam fee with default value that is 10,000. So even if you keep your exam fee blank, by default, the database will give you a value that is 10,000. So default value can work only in that case when you have one fixed value for all the set of columns. If you have different values for each record, then default will not work. Remember that. So here I have considered a student table where exam fee is 10,000 for all the students. Okay. Then only my default constraint will work here. If it is different for different students or different stream, then this default cannot work. So even if you keep this default value blank, you will not get an error message from the system, because you have already set the default value, that is 10,000. So that is your default constraint. Let's move to next. Check constraint. So whenever I talk about check constraint, it is basically used for specifying the range of values for a particular column of a table. So you will specify the range of value. So this is only the range of value which is acceptable, and anything while you are inserting your record, it should belong this range of value. Any value outside this range or lesser than this range will not be acceptable. So whenever we talk about check constraint, it makes sure that the specified column will have definitely the range of values which you have specified. Okay. So here I have specified my roll number. It has to be not null, and it has to check that the roll number has to be greater than 1000. So that is the constraint which I have applied your check constraint. Similarly, you can have a check constraint for your age also. While you are inserting, you can have a check constraint. Age should be greater than 18. So anybody who is inserting the value less than 18, it will not be allowed to be inserted into your databases. It will give an error message which tells you that the age greater than 18 is only allowed by the system, less than 18 is not allowed. So that is your check constraint. Next we have primary key constraint. So whenever I talk about primary key constraint, these are those constraints that uniquely identify your each record in a table. So it will be always unique records, and there cannot have null values. Because if your primary key have null values, then there will, how you will identify your table. So primary key is a unique value which actually helps you to store the information into your databases. So here in your example, you can see the roll number is marked as a primary key. So your primary key cannot have duplicate values and cannot have null values. So whenever you want to represent primary key, you have to write it down like this at the end: primary key, open close bracket, and the attribute which you want to as a primary key. Similarly, we are going to go with the foreign key. So one table primary key, when goes to another table, it becomes a foreign key. So we'll take an example here. First, this is an example of your primary key. So I have one table that is called as customer. Okay. And in this table, my primary key is ID. Customer ID is a primary key. So whenever this primary key of customer ID will go to another table, it will become foreign key. So let us see how it becomes foreign key. So here you can see you have another table that is your order. It has its order ID. It has date and time. Now the customer ID of order table will take reference from whom? It will take reference from customer table, and which column? ID. So the syntax here is how your column name, data type of that column, followed by the keyword references, because you are asking for reference from whom the table name is customers, and from whom you are asking what is the attribute name, that is ID. You can see here you have your customers table, and the attribute which we are asking for reference is your ID. So the syntax here is column name along with the data type along with the keyword references, whose reference you want to take, the table name of that, along with the attribute name into your brackets. So that is your foreign key constraint. Next, we are going to move to the topic that is business rule. So whenever I talk about business rule, it actually refers to whenever you're designing your businesses, whenever you design your databases, what are the different rules you need to consider? Because whenever you are inserting the data into your data model, you need to have some rules while insertion. You just can't simply adding rows to your table. So business rule basically tells you that how you're going to represent the information, how you're going to store that information, how they're going to develop a relationship between all the data stored into your models. So that is your business rule. So business rule basically gives us a proper classification of your entities, your attributes, your relationship, and constraint. So whatever we have studied initially, it gives you a classification that what it is entity, what is attributes, what is relationship, and how they are communicating with each other. So when we talk about business rule, it is classified into 4 types. Okay. The very first is your entity integrity. So whenever I talk about entity integrity, it refers to what? Each instance, if an entity type must have unique identifier that is not null. So that is nothing but your primary key. So every entity type should have a unique identification that cannot be null. So all your primary keys becomes an entity integrity here. Second, referential integrity constraint. So whenever I talk about referential integrity constraint, it refers to rules concerning relationship between entity types. So always remember, when we talk about referential, it refers to reference, and that is nothing but your foreign key. So one table primary key, when moves to another table, it becomes foreign key. So that is your relationship between your different entity types. Third is your domain integrity. So domain integrity refers to constraints that will have valued values for attributes. Okay, so you have given then valid attributes for age that should be between 18 to 50. Anything lesser than 18 or anything greater than 18 is not a valid value for the attributes. So whenever you are giving a range of valid attributes, and you are telling that anything which you want to enter should be the part of this valid attributes only, then it is called as domain, because you're defining the domain value. So my domain value here in example here is between 80 to 18 to 50. So anything lesser than 18 will not belong to the domain. Anything greater than 50 will not belong to my domain. Last is your triggering options. So when I talk about triggering options, that is nothing but whenever you have your stored procedures, there are some operations which takes automatically event occurs into your databases. That is your triggering. So whenever you have triggering operation, it always makes sure that whatever attribute values you have will have true values. Okay, the values, a validity of the attribute value will be true. There will be no missing value, there will be no incomplete value, the value will not be outdated. So there it preserves the validity of your attribute values. Okay, so that completes your chapter 2. In the next lecture, we are going to take a quick revision of your chapter 3. That's it for the day. Thank you, everyone.